What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Renegade Animation. I'm your host, Mike, and joining me, as always, is my co-captain, Cameron.
Howdy, howdy.
And returning to the podcast is PJ Campbell from the PJ Campbell Network and head writer of the Movie Trivia Schmodown.
Hey, guys. It's good to be back right at the end of 2020, so I'm closing out in style with you all here. How are you guys?
I'm doing good.
I'm doing fantastic.
So on today's show, we have reviews for Lupin the Third, the First, and Disney Pixar's Soul. But first, we have a couple news items. Some of them are par for the course for 2020. So Cameron, what do you got?
Well, recently we lost two animation heads. Doug Crane, who was a renowned East Coast animator, passed away at age 85 from cancer. As if that thing hasn't taken enough people this year. He's worked in a lot of stuff: storyboarding, layout, backgrounds, character designs. He worked on stuff like Beavis and Butthead, Mighty Thor, The Smurfs, Raggedy Ann and Andy: A Musical Adventure, He-Man, Heavy Metal. I think he also worked on like some of the UPA cartoons. But basically a lot of the 80s stuff that you would know. Also like Mighty Mouse. So it's a shame. He has a pretty prolific legacy and, he'll be missed. Unfortunately, I wish I was the only person who passed away, but unfortunately, director, storyboard artist, writer, and animator who worked on stuff like SpongeBob, Tucker, passed away on the 22nd at age 59. He worked on stuff like Rugrats, The Ren and Stimpy Show, The Simpsons, Hey Arnold, Real Monsters, and Duckman. And plenty of other stuff. The Mighty Bee, Camp Lazlo, Fairly Odd Parents, Oh Yeah, Cartoon. And, it's a shame that they both passed away, especially Tucker, which 59 is young still to me. And I just turned 31. I don't want to think about passing away 20 years from now. So, but that is enough for that. So may they rest in peace. We got some new information for Sing 2, the sequel to probably everyone's mostly favorite Illumination film.
Certainly mine.
Yeah. So we have Bono, Letitia Wright, and Pharrell Williams are going to be joining the sequel. Along with Bobby Carnival, Chelsea Peretti, Hazley and Eric Andre. They'll be joining with returning cast of Matthew McConaughey, Reese Witherspoon, Scarlett Johansson, Taron Egerton, and Nick Kroll. Let's see. Where is it? So Bono will be playing a lion named Clay Calloway. I actually kind of like that name. Who became the world's most reclusive rock legend after the death of his wife. Dark. Okay. Before Buster Moon and crew can impress an intimidating music mogul, Wolf Jimmy Crystal, who's going to be played by Carnival, enough to grace the biggest stage, they must persuade Clay Calloway to perform in the show. Pharrell Williams is playing Alfonso, an elephant ice cream truck owner who becomes a love interest for Mina, who is voiced by Tori Kelly. Hazley is going to voice Jimmy Crystal's teen daughter, Porsche. Letitia Wright will play a streetwise feline dancer who helps Egerton's character. And Andre is going to play a self-important yak who is cast in the stage production opposite Mina in a romantic duet. And Peretti will voice Jimmy Crystal's haughty canine assistant and talent scout. I like the voice cast. I like the ideas. I couldn't imagine a better fit for Andre than a yak.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's the most perfect casting I've heard out of all of those.
It's so funny because immediately the Eric Andre one, you hear it and you're like, well, that checks out for him. As far as like Bono has had such an interesting career, just where every once in a while he pops up in things. Anyone who's seen Across the Universe remembers he had a small part in that as well. So to see him jumping into something like this is very interesting to me. Bobby Cannavale is always a very welcome addition to anything. I think he's incredibly talented. And Chelsea Peretti, similarly, I'm a big fan of her. I'm a big Brooklyn Nine-Nine fan. So obviously, to me, that made my day. But the question I have for you guys is with Letitia Wright, because unfortunately, over the past several weeks, Letitia Wright has become rather infamous on the internet and has been pushing some anti-vax type stuff, some maybe anti-Biden type stuff, because she seemed to lean in on this idea of the election being stolen and that Biden is somehow being part of like some antichrist movement and stuff. You think she sticks around on this thing?
If she keeps this up, I doubt it. We'll probably hear an announcement within like the next month or two that she's getting replaced, but who knows for sure.
Yeah, I can't imagine that she's going to stay on much longer, but we'll have to see, because otherwise that would be kind of a really bad stinking point of watching the sequel. But we'll have to see. But yeah, I'll say this though, to lighten up the mood because of Wright's. I hope that even if it seems tasteless and just for the meat like reference, I hope the Yak does a pizza ball reference because if you watch the Eric Andre show, he has a famous skit where he's just like, he goes around trying to deliver a ball made of pizza. But yeah, no, we'll have to see. Mamoru Hosoda, the famed director for The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, Summer Wars, Wolf Children, Boy and the Beast, and Mirai, which was the first non-Ghibli anime film from Japan to be nominated for an Oscar, has a new movie coming out next year called Belle. And not a lot of information is out on this. Apparently it's going to have like a premise somewhat similar to Summer Wars in terms of just like social, a huge social media setting, kind of like with Summer Wars, with that whole online world social media network that was in that film. And I'm excited. I love Mamoru Hosoda, and I know he kind of caught a little flack with some people by saying like, I want to make anime but not make anime, if that makes sense, because he's like, I was tired, like basically he was tired of making film, like working on traditional anime projects, and he wanted to work on his own features and whatnot. So any thoughts?
Just the premise of this sounds fascinating. I'm a little less familiar with Hosoda's work than Cameron, but it's a filmography I've been meaning to catch up on.
His films are so good. Just like Wolf Children was like the best animated film of 2013. Mirai was my favorite animated film of 2018. And no, he's very unique because he also has an approach of basically setting his films around family connections.
Mm-hmm.
Like Summer Wars was about the legacy and connection with like the overall family. Wolf Children was about a single mother raising two kids. The Boy and the Beast was about it was about a father-son connection, and then Mirai was a brother and sister connection. And it just, his films are great. You might know him more from his work on the Digimon movie that got royally screwed over by Fox and Saban back in the day. So
I was going to say that for me was where I originally found his work, was because I used to watch Digimon. I remember seeing the movie and followed him from there kind of on. And I think that The Girl Who Leapt Through Time and The Boy and the Beast are both two of the best films of the last 20 years, like especially in animation. I think they're both really, really fantastic. dude is super talented, so anything he's going to do is never a bad idea, and it's the kind of thing that I want to keep an eye on, like he's done a lot of work in to the point he's kind of gotten lumped into only being looked at as the anime guy for some people, because he did do work on some of the Dragon Ball Z movies and episodes, and he did do some work on Digimon outside of that and One Piece and things like that, but he's so much more than that. Like he's so talented.
That's the thing. A lot of directors work on the franchise stuff. Keiichi Hara, who did Miss Hokusai, worked on Shin-Chan. And then another director, I forgot which one, and I know we just talked about him with Children of the Sea, but he worked on I think the Doraemon franchise. And so it's like they have to start somewhere. And
even Miyazaki, like people forget, Lupin the Third, The Castle of Cagliostro, was directed by him, and he directed like 2 episodes of the animated series.
Yeah, which were like put on their own DVD because everyone was like, because they were that good, and you could tell they look wildly different than because this was like, I think, the Red Jacket era.
It was in the middle of the Red Jacket era.
Yeah, so it's just like, and one of the episodes has a cameo of the Castle in the Sky robot.
Oh yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah, and that was his, like, he was basically trying to put it behind him in a way, but he also, wanted to go out in style in the best way possible, because Miyazaki is that dude. And so, similarly, you can't really blame Hosoda for wanting to try to do anything else, because you don't want to get lumped in like that.
No, it's like, I think a lot of people kind of mistook his comments for like, oh, so he thinks anime is below him. And it's like, no, he's not saying that. It's just like, anime is a great art form, but rarely do you get to make something that's not in that mold. And yeah, so it's just like, anytime that a director can work on something that's not just traditional anime, they're going to take it. So the big news story is that Warner Brothers has announced a feature film, or like apparently a trio of features release set for 2023, including a film called Coyote versus Acme, which is based on the Wile E. Coyote character and the company that he gets all his gadgets from. So set to rocket into theaters on July 21st, 2023. Coyote versus Acme is being directed by Dave Green, who worked on TMNT, Out of the Shadows, and Earth to Echo, with a screenplay from James Gunn and Jeremy Slater, John Silberman, and Josh Silberman, and Sammy Birch. Producers are animation veterans Chris DeFaria of Keylight and James Gunn of Two Monkeys, a Goat, and Another Dead Monkey. That's interesting. So this is kind of interesting. What do y'all think about this news?
I remember, like, at least like 10 years ago, there were rumors of a similar project being developed at Warner Brothers.
Yep.
And this movie sounds eerily similar to that earlier film.
I'm interested. I was just reading this from the Animation Magazine article of it, but did they say if it's going to be fully animated, or is it going to be like
it's a hybrid? And that's why I think Mike has a point, because there was a movie kicking around since the early 2010s, maybe even late 2000s, called Acme. And it was very similar to this, and it was kind of described as Night at the Museum meets Warner Brothers, and using the Looney Tunes characters. And so I know that you guys know, because you, like me, have been following the business for a long time. Stuff that kind of floats around never quite leaves the executive desks. And even regime to regime, like, you'll see that the notes that kind of get left around, they kind of pick up the pieces and find a way to rework them into something new. And this is exactly what this sounds like to me. And that's not a bad thing. I always think that some projects, depending on how long they've been around, is never a bad thing to like retool them a little bit, work on them a little bit, because rushing things is never a good thing. And pushing things out that need to that you want to just to like meet a quota is never good either. And so the fact that this project's kind of kicked around for a while, but they're clearly also being like, how do we make the Warner Brothers characters matter again? Because the truth is, unfortunately, and I think we can all agree, is that we like the Warner Brothers characters, but outside of us, they are not nearly as popular as, say, a lot of Disney's characters. And Warner Brothers wants to make a splash with them again, at least in a general public setting.
So are you guys down for it for being a live action animated hybrid?
I mean, we've already kind of seen that twice with Space Jam, Looney Tunes Back in Action, and then a Space Jam sequel coming out next summer.
And then, of course, WB with their freaking Tom and Jerry film. I don't know if I really want this to be a hybrid, just because. I mean, I don't know. I guess if they had to pick a character to do that, I guess Wile E. Coyote would fit the bill better than others, because a lot of his was just methodical planning and then that plan backfiring on him. I don't know. I guess I want to see a plot synopsis.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can find anything better than what we know, but
because like the thing with Wile E. Coyote is he's a mute character. I mean, yes, there was that one time he tangled with bugs, but I don't count that, and nor do I count his clone who worked alongside Ralph the sheepdog.
Right.
And I don't know. It's like I just don't want him to talk. Please.
No, I agree with that. And I'm looking right now, and the most we've got essentially is after failing to catch the Roadrunner, he takes it upon himself to go to war with the company that supports him.
So are we getting like an on basis of sex or something on this, where it's just gonna it's gonna be a courtroom drama?
That'd be amazing. To be honest with you, look, it was just mentioned Looney Tunes Back in Action gets a lot of flack, but I think that is actually fair. The studio messed with it a lot, but there's a lot to enjoy about that movie, and Joe Dante definitely rode the line of being live action and fun while also being a Looney Tunes cartoon. It's really going to be dependent on what they're able to do with Dave Green, and having James Gunn as part of the person who wrote the script tells me that there's going to be some tongue-in-cheek fun nature to it, like the Scooby-Doo movies.
Mm-hmm.
And so clearly Warner Brothers is back in the game of getting Gunn on board. Obviously, we know they're very happy with the Suicide Squad enough that Peacekeeper's getting his own show. So to have him come in and write this Looney Tunes cartoon, because he's done it before with the hybrid thing, it's interesting, because you have to think it's going to be just kind of bizarre and over the top in only the way that James Gunn can do, but also Dave Green is not a well-known actor or director. I mean, Out of the Shadows was not that well received, and Earth to Echo was okayly received, but it's a very interesting choice considering the writing behind it.
I think that's the one thing that's also kind of caught my attention was the director, because as much as it was satisfying to see some of the TMNT characters in that film, it wasn't a good movie. And at first I was like, well, the fans should be happy and they should go see it, and nobody went to see it. And it's like, well, great. Yeah. The fans have disappointed again. But then it's like you remember more of the movie, and it's like, I don't blame them.
My only hope is that this also means that WB is so in on the James Gunn business that they finally greenlight a third Scooby-Doo film where they're all older and dealing with a midlife crisis together.
That would be awesome.
I would love to see that.
If he's on board to write and direct,
yes,
I think it'll be kind of like the Logan of the Scooby-Doo trilogy.
Yes,
oh, gosh.
Absolutely. And that's kind of what I want. Because earlier in the year, over on the network, we did watch-alongs of the two movies, and that's all I could think of was I want Gunn to come back with this cast and actually get to write and direct it.
I know. I mean, I don't remember enjoying those live action films that much, but it's been ages since I've seen them. But I remember there was always kind of a fun energy to them, but it was always bogged down by the studio interference and Raja Gosnell as director of those movies. And I'm sorry, he hasn't made a movie I liked, and he keeps being stuck with those live action animation hybrid films. And yeah, but no, we'll have to see. I want to know what the approach for this is, because I don't know. We'll have to see. But yeah, that's it for all the news.
Yeah, pretty light news week, which is nice since we're heading towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
And now we're moving on to a franchise that I know you two are big fans of.
Yeah.
This is Lupin the Third, the First.
Lupin!
Oh gosh, I got so excited when I watched that movie via screener, and you hear Doug Erholtz as Zenigata just yell. Yeah, I mean that's always like an iconic thing of Lupin.
It 100% is. Look, can I just say out the gate real quick, like it is absurd to me that we still had to wait almost an entire year just to see this movie, because it came out last December.
Yeah.
In Japan and China, and it took until this October for it to even get a theatrical release, and then like late November, early December for us to finally even get digital copies of it here. So I've been waiting for this movie for a really, really long time. I'm a big fan of the franchise, and this is the first movie in 23 years. So you bet your ass I've been waiting and like just wanting to see something, because the cartoon, like when Cartoon Network brought the show back over for the first time in like the early 2000s for us, and to get that cast, and I'm not normally the guy who says that you need to listen to a dubbed version, but the American dubbed cast is one of the few times where I'm like, holy shit, like they just get the characters.
Yeah, that's honestly this is one of the few franchises where I am very picky about who they get for the voice cast.
Yes.
Because I know because there are many different dub casts for these, and it kind of depends on who distributed the franchise. And I'm sorry, but the Genion dub cast of Tony Oliver, Richard Epcar, Lex Lang, and Michelle Ruff.
That sounds like the definitive cast to me.
It is 100%.
I know Funimation had a different voice cast, and they're fine. I haven't been a huge fan of that one, except for like I think it was like Lupin the Third, Dead or Alive, where I thought, okay, that was a pretty good Lupin the third dub cast film. But and then they're like, for the specials that Discotek put out, they got different people for them, but they brought back Richard Epcar as Zenigata, and it's just like, oh, they were so close. But they got Dan Warren as what's his name? The shooter, the sharpshooter, Jigen. Sorry.
Yeah, Jigen. Richard Epcar is so good as Jigen.
Yeah, I know, and that's the thing. Richard Epcar is Jigen. You can't recast him. It's like someone saying, "Hey, we should redub Cowboy Bebop and redub Steve Blum," and it's like, no, don't touch that. And I know some people are kind of mixed on Tony Oliver's take on him, which makes him a little more goofy, but I like that version. I mean, I know Keith, I think his name is Keith Silverstein, who plays him in the specials.
Mm-hmm.
He's okay, and I like him, and I like him as Ian in Dorohedoro. But Tony Oliver, man, you got to have Tony Oliver as Lupin.
I could not agree more with you, and I know that's a weird thing, but look, maybe a part of it is because Tony Oliver is the guy I grew up on, because his Lupin was the one that I fell in love with.
Yeah, no, we didn't get the Green Jacket Lupin series. That one got skipped over for the Red Jacket.
Yep.
And then the Pink Jacket got skipped over, and then the franchise is kind of weird in the US release, because it was like periodic releases all around until recently, when Discotek became a much bigger company. They were like, no, let's just bring over all the Lupin.
Yeah.
And
it's been weird watching it try to roll out, and like, again, to your point, like it was always sporadic for us, because even the runs on Cartoon Network never got finished. Like they would skip episodes, or, which is unfortunately very normal over here. But like then they would get to a certain point, and then the contract would be up, and they'd never finish it.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because this is like one of the prolific anime franchises, probably alongside City Hunter from just in that kind of same time zone and period. And it's just interesting how the US never ate up any of it as much as like Hong Kong was a bigger City Hunter fan base than the US, which is interesting to me because City Hunter got that Jackie Chan film, and
Yep.
Lupin, man, it doesn't make sense to me because Lupin is all like, well, we talk about this, Mike and I think you heard about it before. Lupin doesn't matter in the continuity department.
No.
You could watch any version and jump into it and instantly understand how everything works, who's who, and what the chemistry is.
And that's really what I like about the movie.
So let me do a quick little history rundown for this film. So this is directed by Takashi Yamazaki, who directed last year, well, I guess this year's for the US viewers, Dragon Quest Your Story. Yeah, it was released back in December in Japan and China, and then it was one of the major films for the Annecy Film Festival for the online segment, which Mike and I never got to fully see. They only showed the first 10 minutes, which was just a bummer because, if you've seen our Annecy episode, it was just like you want the crowd pleasers? Well, too bad. You're getting the stuff that was made because the director wanted to make it, and for the director and only the director. And then, yeah, G-Kids picked it up, and then everyone was like, oh, who are they going to get? And then they were like, yeah, of course we're getting the iconic voice cast back. And though I did see someone say they wanted Ben Schwartz as Lupin if they got celebrity casting, and I was like, no.
Are we just is Ben Schwartz gonna be that guy now that everyone wants to be in everything? Because obviously we had him in Sonic, and we, like he was one of the better parts about Sonic, but can we just try to understand, and this is a thing for me, and I'm sure that you guys feel similarly, just because you get people who are like well known does not make them good choices and fits for the things that you're trying to do.
No.
Agreed 100%.
Yeah, agreed. And then, yeah, this one came out and had a small limited theatrical run, and then was recently put out on digital, and will have a full US like physical Blu-ray DVD release in January. So
I have it pre-ordered already.
Yeah, same here. I got the Steelbook edition.
Me too.
Yeah,
me too.
So yeah, so where should we start with this? Should we start with the story?
So let me just say real fast out the gate,
Go ahead.
To Mike and Cameron's point, one of the beautiful things about Lupin, when done correctly, this is not always done correctly, but when done correctly, you can jump into any one of these stories, kind of similar to like an Indiana Jones style pulp serial, and that is so important because you need to know the characters, you need to know the world, but you need to be able to like have a good time with it. And any franchise that has any sort of history is always kind of scary and daunting to look at. And Lupin the Third, the First, one of the brilliant things about it, obviously the subtitle kind of says it for itself, the first. It's a double meaning for something in part of the movie, but it's also a 23-year wait to reintroduce this character to a new audience who may not know him and the world. And this movie so brilliantly plays into that pulp narrative style. This is arguably the most perfect starting point for any fan of the franchise since The Castle of Cagliostro. Like, I adore what they ended up doing with this movie.
Yeah, no, it also means that it's the franchise's first foray into CGI. Also, so let's start with the plot. So back in the World War II eras, a known explorer artifact per individual, named Bresson, had a special diary that has a secret to an unknown treasure that was unfortunately being hunted down by the Nazis. Bresson is killed, and the diary is not lost per se, but it's just like it kind of goes out of the public eye until decades later when it shows up at a Bresson museum exhibit. And of course, knowing that it's fancy, priceless, and there's only one of its kind, Lupin, voiced by Tony Oliver, plans on stealing it. Unfortunately for him, he is thwarted by a young thief named Letitia, voiced by Joy Scatterin, who is the granddaughter of Brisson, or until we know that, and of course the ever not non-surrendering detective Zenigata, voiced by Doug Erholtz. So of course shenanigans ensue. The diary is taken by Fujiko, because of course it is, who is voiced by Michelle Ruff, and Lupin teams up with this young woman who has a connection to the diary and has a key that helps unlock its mystery and secrets. And they're going to try to find the treasure before the Nazis do. So, where should we start with this? I kind of want to start with the animation.
Yes.
So, this was their first foray into CGI animation, and it's not always a positive transition, since not everywhere in the world works at the same thought process with with Hollywood's definition of how good and how much money to put into CGI animation. Mm-hmm. The animation here was done by TMS Entertainment and Marza Animation Planet, and all things considered, Japan is really getting there with CGI animation, and their transition of taking the 2D designs and putting them into a 3D perspective really works. Like, Lupin is still kind of cheeky looking, kind of has that monkey-like grin, and the more exaggerated movements, and it just looks good, for all things considered.
I would go as far as to say this is probably the best looking 3D animated film that's come out of Japan in the last decade. Mm-hmm. And the fact that they were able to translate those 2D character designs seamlessly into 3D, I just find the most impressive.
And I'll go as far as to say, and I know that, Mike, you saw my tweet about this, and I think, Cameron, you did too. I said not only is this the best leap from 2D to 3D that I've ever seen a franchise take, and I mean, we've seen it a couple of times, also recently with Pokemon, and Pokemon did not stick that landing.
Oh, gosh.
But more specifically, I think this is the best that the Lupin and any of the characters in this world has ever looked. And that's because it felt like this was the one time that they really spent the time and money to do it right and to fully realize this world and the characters and the thing that they live in. And just to really drive that point home, if any of you listening haven't seen the movie yet, I want you to go on YouTube before you continue listening to this and look up Lupin the Third, the first opening, and just watch the opening credits of the film. It is the most brilliantly put together opening that defines all the characters if you don't know them. It is a Bond style opening mixed with Tintin, with the original Lupin theme put in. It is so mind-blowingly beautiful. I am obsessed with it. I am not kidding you when I tell you, if you guys know Maxwell and a bunch of the people over at our network, I have made them watch it so many times just trying to convince them to watch the movie.
No, it's a very iconic opening. It's instantly iconic. Yeah. And they even throw in the iconic Lupin running from gunfire sequence, which kind of seems like you have to do that. And that's not a problem because it's such a unique look and I love the little details that they put in that opening, especially with the 2D effects of the cars moving, or the more kind of Looney Tunes or comedy style thing of when Zenigata sends out his endless amount of police officers.
And anytime scenes like that take place, it always gets me every time.
Well, they're all and you could tell from their designs, they're all faceless. Well, they're not faceless, but they're supposed to look like
no, I wouldn't say faceless, but non-detailed horde.
Yeah, no, and I want and they get all the little details down, when Lupin jumps out of the pile of police officers and he just kind of shimmies up and then pulls his boxers up.
Yes,
it's that's great. And of course, anytime Zenigata, like Lupin could just be having a sandwich, and then Zenigata would just be like, Lupin, and
Hey, Pops.
yeah, golly, and then of course the action is really well done, just like from the heist sequences to like the really good car chase sequence when Jigen
car chases. Oof.
Yeah, when Jigen and Goemon save Lupin from the police, and I mean, there's just the animation is handled so well.
There's
yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, not to step on what you're saying.
No, go ahead.
to go hand in hand with that, like the third act of this film has a very Last Crusade vibe, and if you've seen Last Crusade and you see this part of the film, you'll know exactly what I mean. And that animation in those sequences is like out of this world in how well it is handled, as far as like the action of it all feels.
Yeah, I was definitely getting Last Crusade vibes from all of that.
Yeah.
No, and I just like that the other human characters also look like they fit in within the Lupin universe.
Yes.
Because that was always like a problem with some of the other previous endeavors with franchises jumping into CGI filmmaking. Like Pokemon, the characters all look like porcelain dolls, and they just did not look good. The Pokemon looked great, but the humans, woof.
Yeah.
And then Dragon Quest Your Story took out the iconic. I mean, they looked like Akira Toriyama's designs, but then they like changed the eyes and such, and it's just like, that's not Toriyama. That's someone trying to copy Toriyama but not getting that essence. It was basically the Lion King 2019 of Pokemon and Dragon Quest.
Ooh, ouch.
And I mean, I'm sorry, but Lion King opens itself up for targets like that. And I mean, I know, granted, one of the villains does look like David Lynch.
It's David Lynch mixed with David Bowie.
Yeah,
that's pretty accurate.
Because I remember when the trailer first came out, everyone's like, is David Lynch going to fight Lupin the Third?
I kind of love it, to be honest, because I mean, like, I'm also a sucker for David Bowie. David Bowie's my favorite musician probably of all time. And just while I'm watching, I was like, this dude looks so much like David Bowie, and I couldn't wrap my head around how they got away with it.
No, it all works. Like,
yes.
And even like when they have the more like realistic design, like textures of the like the world around them, the characters never felt out of place. And that's always such a hard thing to do, because, you know, like the Good Dinosaur suffered from that, where it had really pretty landscapes, but then all the dinosaurs look like toys. And I have to say, another kind of funny reaction from it that I saw go around the internet when Lupin the Third, the First, showed up in marketing and whatnot. Everyone's just like, oh no, they made Jigen just 100 times hotter than he already was. And it's like, no, I'm not gonna lie. And I did see some like people post the Squidward meme where they like post a picture of Jigen without his hat, and then Squidward going like, oh no, he's hot. So anything else you guys want to talk about the animation, or should we just jump into like the story beats and whatnot?
I want to jump in right to the story.
So for me, the big takeaway from this film's story was legacy. It was about the granddaughter protecting hers, and Lupin fulfilling his grandfather's legacy, which you all know Lupin is the grandson of the original Arsène Lupin character from the books. And first of all, I'm so glad that it seems like people can just say Lupin more because, you know, there was that time period where they were bringing it over and there was a whole copyright dispute about the Lupin estate, or the writer of the Arsène Lupin books saying like, no, you can't say Lupin, but it's like, but that's his name.
Yeah.
And they either have to call him Wolf or Boss, or the wildly racist version, Rupin. Like, and it's like, don't like that. I mean, that's why I prefer the manga UK, I think, dub of Castle Cagliostro, because it's more loyal to the original script, and everyone can just say Lupin without any worry of copyright.
Yeah,
But that was my
agree with you.
But that was my takeaway from the film, with its theme of legacy, and of course the Nazis trying to bring back the Third Reich. And
I mean, look, the truth is like anything else, and it's the same thing we've been talking about. A 23-year wait of anything, it always means, kind of to your point, dealing not just with legacy, but also blazing a new trail. And I think that this movie does it really brilliantly in a way where it's like, look, we obviously know Lupin is a character that exists in a very specific time. He's been around since the 70s. I thought it was brilliant, number one, that it was still set in the 60s. They didn't take it out of that era. And I think that that's actually one of the best parts about the movie, is that it didn't get like a fully modernized update. Because there is a modern version of Lupin that exists right now, dealing with like hackers and like a 21st century version of it. But there's something to be said about dealing with legacy of a character that's been around a long time, but still in that same time period that you're kind of used to him from.
Mm-hmm.
And really trying to also be like, look, we want you to understand where it comes from, why we appreciate it for what it is, and pushing it to that like next level of, we want to keep doing this, but we also want to like love the thing that came before. And it's got such a big heart in the same way that Castle of Cagliostro does. And that's what sets this one apart from almost all the other ones, is the heart underneath it, because the entire relationship that Lupin has with Letitia is actually like really kind of sweet and really kind of beautiful. And the way that their storyline ends up tying together is really unique in a way that I was not anticipating. And I thought, I don't want to dive too deep into spoilers for people who are going to discover it for the first time, but like that was kind of great in a way that I wasn't really anticipating, because it got me a little misty-eyed just in the way they tied it together.
Well, the director did say on files, saying like, yeah, I wanted to bring back that heart and passion that you see in Castle Cagliostro. Because like, as much as I love Lupin III, a lot of those specials and films are not all that great. Or it's like they focus too much on the heist, and the heist is not all that interesting, or the characters don't have a lot to do, or like some characters get way more focus, and sometimes they just don't do the characters justice. And I've seen a ton of the specials, and it's tough to get that balance right. And but it does seem like sometimes the heart is not in the right place. Like the special for me that really shows the worst of the franchise is Green versus Red, but only because it's not about Lupin. It's about the like symbolicness of Lupin. And it's like the film has dealing with clones, and like there's 100 Lupins flying around, and
that just sounds messy.
Oh, it's a mess, and it's like it doesn't look great, and
like
it's a disappointment.
I love this franchise dearly. I do. It was one of my first real deep dives and just like appreciations of anime, because again, I was pretty young when it made its debut on Cartoon Network.
Right.
Young enough that I latched on and like really fell in love with it, because you're 31, I'm about to turn 31. Like so you and I are about the same page, Cameron, as far as the timing goes. So, you know, we were both right there when the original version was brought over, or at least the second of the original. It's complicated. But the point being is that like, even with the movies and stuff, a lot of the sequels became kind of what it is: cheap dime store storytelling, which is fine. That's kind of what the franchise is based off of, right? Cheap dime store paperback storytelling. They're pulp serials, and that's fine. But it's always fun when it can do that, but be better, and like take it to that next level. And the first does that in spades.
Yeah, no, it's like, that's why I like the specials that the guy behind Redline directed, which are based off of the woman named Fujiko Mine series. Which are like Goemon's Blood Spray, and then Jigen's Gravestone, and Fujiko Mine's Lie. They dive into the characters and make them more interesting, because it's really easy to make Goemon the most boring character of the bunch, because he's the quiet, stoic samurai character. but the like original series and this film and the some parts of the Miyazaki one do give him a little more personality. Like when they go for the actual treasure and they have to use Goemon's sword.
Yes.
And he's like, no, I'm not going to give it up. It's my sword. And then it's just like he's hesitant of crossing the bridge. Like when they solve the puzzle, he doesn't want to go along because he wants his sword next to him. But I have to say, I am so happy that they did not bring back any of the uncomfortableness of Fujiko Mine.
Yes.
Because she's still the bombshell, but they bring back the playful relationship that she and Lupin have, even though half the time that relationship gets Lupin screwed over. But I'm glad that like they didn't try to play up the sex appeal. I mean, yeah, you see a cleavage shot, or they just like play with the fact that she takes off her dress in front of him to put on a pilot outfit. But they don't show like the fan service side of it. They just like show that, and then she's instantly in the pilot suit. And they do a good job bringing like the chemistry among the crew and such. Like I like when they're escaping with the diary, and Jigen drives up with Goemon in the car, and then Fujiko jumps off the plane. The girl jumps off the plane, and then Lupin's like, catch me, and then the car swerves to the side and he just falls flat like a pancake.
Hey, our hands were full.
Yeah, which that line was excellent. And I like that every character kind of got their moment, and every character felt defined in a way. Like, even for newcomers, you really got a sense of who every one of the characters were, even down to like, you guys are only ever in it for the money. Like, you totally abandoned me, and that now you're back.
Yeah.
Like every single bit just felt very well done in the right way.
Yeah, no, it's just a good, fun action adventure story. And I like that they each get to do something. Like one of the first puzzles in the treasure hunt, Jigen is the one to solve it, and then Goemon and then Fujiko and Lupin finish off the last challenge before they get to it. But I guess we kind of have to talk about the elephant in the room. The bad guys are Nazis. So where should we start with this?
Go.
Hold on,
Mike.
So did anyone actually think that Hitler in this universe was still alive?
First off, spoilers from here. Just beware. No, I don't think he was. I was kind of amused that they were taking like do you guys remember the Amazon show Hunters?
Yeah.
I was like kind of amused that they were kind of taking that route because of the whole history of Nazis fleeing to Argentina. And I love that they played with that and then just flipped it on its head and then be like, no, he's still dead. You guys suck.
Yeah. Well, and the truth of the matter is that as far as the Nazis have always been concerned, they've always, for the most part, been a somewhat part of the Lupin franchise.
Yeah.
Even back into the TV show days, like they have come up across the Nazi regime trying to return and stuff like that. And I'll be honest, it doesn't bother me. I can see why it bothers people, but the truth is that no time like the present to remind people that Nazis are bad and we should be punching them in the face. And like I love that they're like, simply put, towards the end of the film when Lupin is fighting David Bowie, because I can't remember the character's name off the top of my head, I apologize, but that character, when he says it straight up, he goes, Nazis lose. And I kind of don't mind when a movie decides to take that sort of stance, because like, frankly speaking, I would not be shocked if the 5th Indiana Jones film, seeing if it ever actually happens, has what's left of the Nazi regime and Indy fighting them one last time. Like, wouldn't you almost expect like the last film of an Indiana Jones franchise where it's like Indy going out fighting Nazis one last time and punching them in the face?
I can see that. Yeah.
I'm of the opinion that Indiana Jones works the best when they're fighting Nazis. So
yeah.
And again, like, to the point of what we're talking about, remember, it's only like 1960. So the movie's set in the 60s. It's not too long. It's 20 years after the end of the war.
Yeah, that's pretty much true. And by the way, the character we're talking about, the David Bowie, David Lynch look like, his name is Gerard.
Gerard, thank you.
And what did you all think about the dynamics between Letitia and Lambert, the scientist who was trying to bring back, who was teaming up with the Nazis to get the treasure and basically say screw the world and blow it up?
Their relationship was interesting, just from a story perspective, but it also kind of felt like a very toxic relationship.
Right.
Even down to like the fact that her name is like basically she only has like one purpose to Lambert, and that's to open the lock.
Yeah, no, and no, I found their relationship a little predictable, but I thought it fit the story overall.
Yeah, I mean, and again, to kind of the point, like, it does feel a little bit modern. A lot of her life has been gaslit by, people above her power, not realizing the truth about her past and people lying to her and things like that. And I thought Letitia was actually a really great character who was kind of setting her own way. And one of the things that they were very smart about is she's not like a damsel in distress.
Yeah.
She's really forging her own path and doing her own thing. And like, she is as much crucial to the bigger part of the story and like saving the day as Lupin is.
Yeah, I almost think she should have been like the film should have been mostly like entirely through her point of view. I think that would have made for a little bit more compelling narrative, but I also get that we're here to see Lupin the Third.
That's the thing. I mean, like, I think Letitia is a better co-protagonist against Lupin, because that's always been a problem with Lupin, is that you come for the film, you come for him and his gang, but then it's like, but they have to have some instigating points, some ignition points, and unfortunately they're always kind of the weaker end of things. Sometimes they're better, like in the Legend of, I think it's called like the Legend of the Twilight Gemini or something like that. The female character that Lupin encounters is a little more interesting, but they're always a little dime a dozen, like damsels in distress, and they don't have much. And then the villains are also very much that. I think that might be my only criticism, is that the villain is not that interesting. It's just like, outside of a great design, Gerard is just, I don't know. He's threatening. He's imposing.
He's another Nazi villain. I mean, like, let's just call a spade a spade.
Yeah,
and it's almost better in a way. As weird as this is going to sound, don't make the Nazi interesting. Just make his face punchable, and we're good to go. Yeah, I see where you're coming from. I'm just saying.
No, I agree. I think it's a tricky thing to like make work, because you don't want to make them amusing, or like them to be the scene stealers of the film. But when they're it's kind of like, sometimes it's the Marvel problem sometimes, or it's like in Aquaman, where Ocean Master was the main threat, even though Black Manta was the more interesting villain, kind of thing. And Gerard, I just don't think he leaves that big of an impression, or at least from all the villains I've seen Lupin fight. He's a little better, but not by far.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And that's okay to me. Like I said, just frankly speaking, more just because it's a Nazi. But I would love to see, look, my hope is that this movie was popular enough and did well enough for them that they decide to do more.
I think that, well, from what I remember reading, that it was a huge financial hit. So
yeah,
I'm looking at the box office right now, and it looks like it made 1.6 or 1.16 billion Zen and 11 million
overall.
That's the thing with Japanese animation budgets. It's kind of hard to find out how much they cost, but they're never like Pixar or even Illumination money. So, but I think it was a hit from what I remember. But this was also early in January when the box office numbers were coming in. So,
Yeah, look, as long as if it did well enough to warrant doing more, because I would love for it to. That gives us a chance to explore more with the characters and get more interesting villains after the fact. But my other thing is that we can't fall into the same pitfalls that this franchise has commonly fallen into. You need to make sure that whoever's making it, if you continue it, it stays to the vision of what, Monkey Paw originally intended, but give it that heart that they've seemingly found in the greatest parts of this franchise. Like, make sure that when you're making it, that you find those pieces and give it a reason to be. Don't just do it just to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, that's kind of like the big franchise film problem, where it's just like they do it just because the franchise is popular, and only a few franchise films are able to escape that. And I think like the My Hero Academia films have been able to escape that trap because they actually tie into the main show. Like the show will actually reference the films. Well, most of the time, franchise films just kind of like, oh, it's a self-contained story. It doesn't matter. Whatever could have been useful for the main storyline will not show up from the films and whatever.
Dragon Ball Z is the worst offender of that.
The Pokemon movies were pretty bad about it too, but after a little while, they started being like, I guess we need to reference some of it. Like, obviously, the Mewtwo sequel was actually like a TV special itself.
Yeah, no, and that's why I don't cover them. That's why I don't put a lot of them into my worst to best lists at the end of every year, because they don't matter, and I don't like that. And
yeah.
Or at their worst, their franchise recap films, which are just the worst kind. Especially since this year we also got Goblin Slayer, the Goblin Crown, and the first 30 minutes of that 90-minute movie, well, quote unquote movie, is a recap of the first season. Like a literal recap. They basically took the recap episode from Goblin Slayer and put it into the movie. And then it's like an hour long worth of content, which is why I'm so happy that at least Lupin's continuity doesn't matter. So I can just enjoy the episodes no matter where they or the films wherever they show up.
And that's again been like the brilliance of it versus when again you look at Pokemon, and I hate to point at it again, but like it did matter in a way with Pokemon. Like every one of those movies should have mattered to the bigger story, and then like they would kind of reference it but not really. Like it's very strange to me that the only one that made it a point to be like, hey, the Pokemon movies matter was Detective Pikachu. Like that movie is a stealth sequel to Mewtwo Strikes Back.
Yeah, no, it's interesting how these go. And then but yeah, anything else we want to talk about with Lupin the Third, the First?
I just hope that we can convince people to watch it. If you don't know what Lupin is, and this is the first time you ever heard people talk about it, like I cannot recommend enough how much I want you guys to watch this. I have it in my top 10 films of the year, and that's not changing. Like I was so wildly impressed with what they did. I think that this is the future of the franchise in a lot of ways, and it was really refreshing to see someone take a franchise that they appreciated and deal with it with care. Like it could have been so easy to just cash in and do a CGI movie that didn't look great and didn't really care about the franchise. And it was, hey, it's the characters, but in a story that didn't matter. But this is the first time in a long time that Lupin felt beloved by someone who wanted to make something special again.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's for animated films, it's in my top 10. It's at number 6 right now. And it's behind Onward, Over the Moon, Ride Your Wave, Soul, and Wolfwalkers. And it's just a great, fun action adventure movie with a lot of heart, a lot of great jokes. Like I still get a huge kick out of like when they're trying to find out how to get to the location of the treasure. And then Lupin is just like, well, I got to do it. There's only one person in the world who is hell-bent on finding me wherever I go.
Yep. And
then he got into like, Lupin, finally, you wanted to turn yourself in. And then they get their whole helicopter jacked.
Yep. That moment is one of the best in the entire movie. Just everything about that. Oh, God. Poor Zenigata.
Yeah.
But at the same time, anytime I get to hear Lupin, it just brings me so much joy. And then the see you later, Pops.
Oh gosh, no. Such a fantastic film. I can't wait. I want them to do more, and I hope this means they do more films instead of specials.
And
So
real quick, one last thing. Can I just say how happy I was to hear Tony Oliver and the entire cast back again in the
Oh,
hell
roles
yes.
of these characters?
they're the best.
They
They're
are,
the
man.
best. That's why people want them back and back. And again, Richard Epcar was, like I said, when they made those recent specials, was like, yeah, sure, I'll come back as Zenigata, but I don't like Zen. Well, he doesn't hate playing Zenigata. He just prefers Jigen because, of course, Jigen is Jigen, and
He's so perfect, Jigen. And I gotta say, this is so random, but like when I was rewatching the first, you remember like everyone back in the day before Cowboy Bebop was being turned live action, everyone wanted Keanu Reeves to be in a live action Cowboy Bebop. Everyone always overlooks the perfect role for Keanu Reeves was always in a live action version of Lupin. He would have always been, to me, like if you look at any of the characters, he's so clearly a Jigen. Like he's so clearly that character. Look at him with the beard, even.
yeah.
I can see that now.
I could see that, especially with the whole John Wick series and
Yeah.
such. He'd be perfect. Okay, so let's just do a quick little question. If you had to do a live action Lupin, who would you cast as who?
So I'm gonna have to, like, I'm assuming we're doing this as an American audience version.
Yeah,
of it.
if you want like Japanese actors and such, you can choose that. It's whoever. It's hypothetical, even though I've seen the Lupin, the live action Lupin films, and I'm not a fan of them, but
no, either am I.
Yeah, but let's just say hypothetically, like for an American audience.
So I'm gonna say for a live action American version, because that's assuming again, I mean, no, this is not a dig or anything, but if we're doing it that way, the person that has to be Lupin to me, and this is out of the box casting a little bit, is Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
I can see that.
I can see that.
I think he has the right amount of charm, and also, like, if you've seen The Night Before, he still has that right amount of comedic timing that he had since Third Rock from the Sun. The dude is great, and I think he can really ride that line between, like, gentleman thief but kind of a buffoon.
Would you want him to try to emulate Tony Oliver's take on the voice, or would you rather him try to just find his own version of the character?
I think he can bring his own voice to the character.
Yeah,
because you can have the characteristics without doing the voice.
Yeah, I think so, because it's kind of like Will Forte trying to be Shaggy, and it's just like, I know you're trying, but you're not doing a good job. Okay, so who would you do as Goemon? Because we already done Jigen, we all kind of agree with Keanu Reeves. So who would be Goemon?
Tony Jaa.
I like that. It's not.
I like that. Now, this is a tough one because you kind of have to have bombshell, but also just awesome character for Fujiko. I kind of think Stephanie Beatrice, but
that's not
bad. It's so tough because Fujiko kind of is like the most frustrating character to deal with, depending on which incarnation. Because sometimes they do her well, or sometimes they just kind of cheaply play with her for fan service, which is never fun.
Sofia Boutella would be a very interesting choice for that character.
Ooh, I like that a lot.
I like that too.
It gives her more of like a more exotic nature.
Yeah, but she could be the bombshell, but she can also be dangerous, which is something I think that the best versions of Fujiko have. Is she's a little bit dangerous, and I thought that this movie actually did that really well too. Like, she's conniving in the right ways, just to stay a step ahead of everyone around her. But Sofia Boutella has always kind of had that as an actress, and I think she'd crush in a role like that.
I just thought of another one.
What?
Gemma-chan.
Ooh, that's good too.
Oh yeah. Now for Zenigata, the hammiest of the characters in the franchise, who would you choose?
There's only one answer for this, in my opinion, and that's Bill Hader.
Oh, I love that. but even though we'd have to kind of work around the whitewashing part of that, but
of course, but again, we're saying specifically if we're doing an American adaptation. I'm not trying to whitewash it. Like,
okay,
but,
yeah. No, I'm just making sure, so everyone's clear. We're not trying to whitewash. We're just
no. I'm doing this as one of those. You know that the American audience is going to be looked at if you're doing an American adaptation to try to get the white actor or like the American actor.
Yeah,
and
let's say they're pulling an Edge of Tomorrow, where they're just taking the base idea of the manga and just ripping everything out, but keeping the foundation of it.
100%. And so I think that's my go-to in that idea is Bill Hader.
I think Bill Hader would be a good choice for that. I agree with a lot of this.
I'm already picturing in my head him screaming Lupin.
You just see him being the frustrated dude who's like, I'm so close to finally winning, only to lose every time.
Okay, then I think that's a pretty fun cast for an Americanized version. So yeah, I think let's move on. So of course we all highly recommend Lupin the Third, the First.
Yep, yes. It just broke my my top 10 for the year. So yeah. I definitely recommend you all check this out.
I know. We could just break down the entire film and just talk about every little bit, every joke, every line, every sequence. Like I wanted to talk about the skydiving sequence, but I didn't want to spoil too much. I just love when one of the characters is falling and Lupin shows up right by them and just kind of does like a joyful spin around. It's like, oh yeah, hey, how you doing? We're now falling out of the sky with no parachutes.
Yep.
All right, so I think let's move on to probably the much more well-known film of the bunch of our episode tonight. Soul, the new film by Pete Docter and Kemp Powers. So, where to start? Let's start with overall thoughts. PJ, you first.
So I went into this, as any Pixar film, where are we going to land on, like, in the pantheon of everything Pixar does? What are they about to deliver? Because they're the best at delivering at a very, very high level. Every once in a while there's a stumble, but for the most part, I'd say that none of their films are completely throwaway. And I ended up being so blown away by everything that Soul is that I think that ultimately this may be Pixar's magnum opus of the last 25, 30 years in a way that I wasn't expecting. It's not my favorite, but I think it technically and storytelling wise may be their best film.
I agree. I think at least for 2020, it's my second favorite animated film of the year, and I'll get into why Wolfwalkers has topped it. But I will say I think this is the best Pixar film since, maybe since Toy Story 3. I mean, I love Coco and Toy Story 4, but I think... It's the best one since Inside Out.
There we go.
Yeah, there we go. I was like, wait a minute. Another great Pixar film came through.
To be totally fair, these are clearly spiritual, sequels of sorts and spiritual films.
Yeah. But yeah, first off, I got to see this via a screener before its release, and I was so happy my screener request went through, and I got it like a week before the film released. And yeah, it's at least in my top 5 for Pixar. And I just, I know it's like, of course, people shouldn't be loyal and hyped because of the brand and whatnot, but anytime Pete Docter is going to work on a movie, I'm going to be excited. And I hope in general, like for Kemp Powers, the director of the upcoming One Night in Miami, that he comes back for animation, because I'd love to see him like it with his own solo directed film. But that's just me. Mike, what about you?
So this movie for 2020 shot up to number 1 on my list. We'll talk about Soul versus Wolfwalkers later, but for now, as far as its how I compare it to Pixar. I think it's clearly their most ambitious work, solely by its animation. I think it's Pete Docter's. I think it might be Pete Docter's most mature film since Inside Out and Up, and I think a lot of what makes this film work are the newer elements that we haven't seen from a Pixar film, such as all of Kemp Powers' contributions from both the script and co-directing, as well as this is the first, to my knowledge, the first animated feature that Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross composed the music for.
Correct.
So, yeah, for a lot of the new elements, I think those are what make this stand out among the rest of Pixar's library.
Yeah, this is the best part about Pixar is that their films can be approached by kids, but they're really for everyone, and they don't talk down to you as an audience member. They treat you with probably the utmost respect out of any animation studio, and it's so good. And now
I'll say real quick, so to piggyback that, it's so amazing that they've managed to do that time and again, but I actually think this may be their first film made for adults that kids might enjoy, not the other way around where it's a family film aimed at both sides.
Yeah, no, I kind of joked with a few coworkers of mine and a few friends saying like, I don't know how kids will react to this, but I do think they should absolutely see it. But I can understand the hard convincing argument of or pitch of like, hey, son, who's like 5, you want to watch a movie about existentialist crisis?
Right.
But let's jump into the story a little. So for anyone who probably doesn't know about this film, I don't know why you wouldn't, but still. We follow Joe Gardner, a middle school music teacher who feels just kind of unfulfilled, stuck in life, until one day he gets a call from an old student of his about an audition to be the new piano player for a very famous jazz musician who's voiced by Angela Bassett. And he nails the audition, and we'll talk about the music in a second, but the music is great. And he gets the audition, and as he's calling someone and saying like, yeah, I got the gig, it's amazing, he unfortunately falls down a manhole and dies. And he ends up in not the great beyond, but kind of like the entry point to it. And of course, kind of in denial that he died, let's just say he's scattered. He's panicking. He's freaked out. And then he ends up in an area called basically the before life. Sorry, where like your soul and then you're shaped and then thrown down onto Earth. And he tries to find a way to get back there and runs into a soul who's been there for a very long time named 22, voiced by Tina Fey. And they make a deal essentially like, if I can find your spark, which is what every soul tries to get before going to Earth, and I'll take your spark and get myself back to Earth. And then shenanigans ensue. So where should we start with this? Because this is obviously Pixar's very mature film. It's a very philosophical film. Also, it's kind of
very.
I can't. Well, it's not that I can't find a starting point. It's where to start. That's the problem.
It's interesting because, to the point earlier, obviously Pete Docter also did Inside Out, which is kind of spiritually almost a prequel to this, because in a way that's the more childlike version of the story it's trying to tell, but that's in the early part of your life when you're still trying to figure yourself out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so Inside Out is about that time in your life when you're coming into your own, you're coming into these changes as a teenager, what you're dealing with. You've been like pulled out of your life to kind of force a new one. This is what happens later in your life when you feel like you've hit a rut, you're stuck, you don't feel like you're doing the thing you're doing, and you've lost that sight and will to live. And the fact that they decided to make a movie that's legitimately about like the midlife crisis and forgetting what it means to be alive and what it also means to like kind of cope with the idea that no matter what you do, like death is almost inevitable is kind of quite the swing that I was not expecting from them.
And that's what I love about it.
Yes.
It goes out there. It's like I see a lot of the worst side of the animation fandom because that's what I tackle. I tackle animation. And a big problem is that there's always a subset of people who are like, I want my animated films to take themselves seriously. I want them to be quote unquote grown up for me. Well, you got it.
This is exactly that.
This is it.
Yeah.
And then sometimes, and of course, sometimes they're like, even when they get what they want, they're like, well, this isn't what I specifically wanted. And it's like, oh, come the freak on. Come on.
Fandom is notorious for that.
Yeah, I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. But I love this movie and just kind of where it goes exactly. Like, I love the spirit counselor Jerry's and Terry.
Jerry and Terry are some of the best.
I love that they take, like they say, they take a form that can be understandable, but they're still pretty out there because, and I have the art book for it, and they kind of talked about how they're inspired by wire statues. And I have to say, those counselors must have been a pain in the neck to try to figure out how they work because they're just like one continuous line and they're flat. And while everyone else is CGI and three-dimensional models and whatnot, I was always amazed by how they were able to make that work. And I love like the visuals that they use where they like, okay, you five will be curious, so they'll send them through and all like the different personality buildings in that before parts. And I love how they approach this because it's like everyone has a certain personality, but then they have a spark that doesn't define them, but it's what drives them. It's what makes them say like, I'm ready to live. And this is what's going to drive that spark forward and such. And then, I mean, like, what do you all think about like how they handle some of these topics?
I think they do a really nice job of like kind of like how Inside Out does a good job of sort of like visualizing the questions that we all ask ourselves. Yeah. Like how did we end up with like this personality or like what really is it that drives us to wake up every morning?
Yeah, and I also just like some of the ideas like with lost souls, or it's like souls that like get too wound up in what they do for a living.
Mm-hmm.
And I also love like how they visualize like being in the quote unquote the zone.
This might be like one of the first movies I've seen like pretty accurately describe that feeling.
Yes.
Yeah, and like I really love how they handle the lost soul stuff because sometimes that stress of what you do can sometimes get the better of you and you can be stuck in that rut. I love that they show the example of that as being a what was it? Not a that they find those gurus without borders, and they find that they help a hedge fund manager.
That the hedge fund manager joke is one of the best jokes in the entire movie. In regards to, we all know what it's like to be at a dead end job that pisses us off, and that we're just slaving away at to survive. And honestly, kind of the point of this movie, more than anything, is that we're all stuck in this situation where day by day we feel like we're slaving away and we're forgetting what it's like to live. And the fact that this movie is willing to go out on a limb and be like, you need to remember what it actually feels like to live is incredible to me.
It's so mature for a Disney film, for a Pixar film, for something that like before Pete Docter became the head of Pixar, someone said, "Yeah, sure, we'll let you do this," and it's very impressive. And I also love some of the jokes that come with it, like when Joe comes across like the zone area where everyone's in the zone and whatnot, and 22 screws up a play actress on forgetting a line, a tattoo artist messing up, and I just love the little oops. And then of course even my sister who's not into sports got the joke of like, oh, I love this one, I've been messing with their team for decades, and gets another loss for the Knicks basketball team.
that might have been the hardest that I've laughed at a visual gag.
That was something that I felt on a fucking like personal level. I was not prepared, and it hit so hard in the best way. And I was like, holy shit, I love this so much. Like, yeah. And I know that as far as we're talking about, like, Kemp wrote that joke. He was like, I'm a huge Knicks fan, and I wrote that joke for a reason. Like, come on now. Like, how do I not? That's my team. Like, you got to be able to make a little bit of a joke for it, you know?
No, a true fan, it has a sense of humor about itself. That's what Mike and I say all the time. We said this about the Star Wars Christmas special. It's a special that was made for fans who have a sense of humor.
Dude, that special is so cute, by the way.
Oh, God. Like, isn't just trying to lift it up, the X-Wing up with the Force, like, trying? It's like, and then Yoda's basically saying there's no room for participation trophies.
Yes.
But anyway, back to Soul. And I love all the little gags and jokes. Like when Joe asks where he is, he's like, "Is this heaven?" No, it's not. Well, is it HE double hockey sticks? And then all the little souls say hell. And I think that was their one way to get away to like, okay, fine. If we're gonna say hell, we'll say it all at once. We'll like say it as many times as we can in this one spot. Or it's like when they're going through the Office style like PSA like motivation video. It's just like, here at the great beyond, like the great before, we make sure souls are like shaped and ready to go, and all the souls are like, I'm like a standoffish wallflower, and then there's like, I'm an egomaniac. Or like when later on, before Terry goes down to Earth to get Joe and 22, and we'll get to that in a second. Where it's like, okay, you all will be curious, and you all will be self-loathing or self-absorbed. And then one of the Jerrys is like, we should stop sending so many through that one. Which I love that.
That was hilarious.
First off, the Jerrys have probably some of the best casting out of any Pixar film. Like, I think, well, this casting for this whole film is so good. And I mean, there's one part that's gonna definitely be like a little awkward to talk about, but we'll get to that. But like, I'm sorry, I'm trying to bring up the spirit the counselors.
I got you. We have Richard Ayoade, Alice Braga, Wes Studi, Fortune Feimster, and Zenobia Schroff, and they're all named Jerry.
Yeah, well, except for Terry. First of all, I love that little gag. It's like they're all named Jerry's, but then there's just the one Terry, and I love like they're not dead souls. They're just like, it's that out of body experience, and they take that. And first of all, I loved Graham Norton as Moonwind. Like I was curious, like, who is that? And then
he was doing his best Patton Oswalt that I've ever heard.
It sounded like a mix of like Patton Oswalt and Dan Stevens at some points.
Yes, and I saw a tweet the other day, like I think yesterday or something, saying like, can we get Graham Norton in everything and not let James Corden get in everything? And I was like, yeah, let's make it to where Graham Norton is in everything instead of James Corden. Um, but but yeah, I'm gonna go through some of these the cast for this. So like Jamie Foxx as Joe, I like Jamie Foxx as an actor. I know sometimes he hits a few clunky roles, but I think he was great. I thought he brought that's the thing about Pixar films and Disney's animation film casting that I like.
They know how to cast the right actors for the right parts.
Yeah, and
Yes.
I mean we'll talk about Tina Fey in a second, but I did like her in the role, um and I like Rachel House as Terry, and of course the other spirit guidance counselors. I like Felicia Rashad as Joe's mom, Liba, and I liked Donnell Rawlings as Dez the barber, which that barber scene is probably my favorite scene out of that entire movie.
I could have spent an entire movie just in that barbershop.
And
I'm happy to tell you guys there are 3 movies called Barbershop. If you enjoyed that scene.
well,
Oh yeah. The third barbershop movie I think is my favorite.
It's mine too. I'm kind of half joking, but I mean that is arguably one of my favorite comedy franchises. So if you guys have never seen it, I do recommend it. I think those films are actually really great.
yeah, no, but I just love seeing Donnell Rawlings, who's usually doing comedic roles, have a more grounded character to play with, even though Dez does have some of the better lines of like the side characters. And I saw this, and I think even though I'm a white guy saying this, I do love how this film just has this black people just being normal, regular people. They're not trying to cartoonize, characterize them. They're letting black people be people. You know what I mean? They're not trying to, they the dialogue doesn't try to flavor their dialogue, or, when you watch a bad movie, movie with a black cast, but it was obviously written by white people kind of thing.
Yep.
It's none of that was here. And I think Kim Powers made sure of that, because it is everything felt so natural and flowing to the dialogue. They weren't trying to stereotype anyone, which is something I know Pixar wasn't going to let that happen, but you always kind of worry about that in some ways.
I mean, the truth is making the fact that they had Kemp Powers as part of the directorial team went a long way, as well as one of the writers,
Yeah. And so anyway, back to casting, Amir Khalib, or Questlove, as Curly, which, like I said, I just love the casting for all this. Angela Bassett as Dorothea Williams. And man, I love seeing Angela Bassett back in everything. She's so good. And
Agreed.
Melba, one of the women that work at Liba's clothing store, voiced by Margot Hall, and Paul, voiced by Daveed Diggs, which I'm a huge Daveed Diggs fan. Put him in put him in everything. Especially, and again, see Blind Spotting. It's one of the best films from the last decade.
Agreed.
Lulu, voiced by Rhodessa Jones. Sakina Jaffrey was the doctor that was in the room where Joe was at. Caleb Grant was the hedge fund manager. Let's see, Laura Mooney was the therapy cat lady. I mean, yeah, Peggy Flood was the little manager woman that Moonwind worked for. Zenobia Shroff, June Squibb, Janine Tirado, Kathy Cavadini, Doris Burke, Dorian Lockett, Marcus Shelby, just a lot of people. And I'm trying to find the actress who played the 12-year-old that Joe was mentoring, with the one who had played trombone.
Right.
Let's see. Yeah, but anyway, and I apologize. I wish I put down who she was. Connie
is Kathy Cavadini.
Yep, that's the one.
She does Connie, Melba, Lulu, the doctor, hedge fund manager, therapy cat lady, Marge, dance star, principal Aereo, and Dreamwind.
Awesome.
Also, something I should point out, because people have been saying that this is Pixar's first film without John Ratzenberger.
I was about to bring that up, actually.
And that's not true. He has an uncredited role as the off-screen voice in Joe's memories.
Really? Okay, I was trying to find because I looked all around and I thought he was like the guy they bump into in the subway, like the first time when they go into the subway train. But that's interesting because I was trying to find him and then I was like, oh my gosh, he's not in there. It's like watching Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and realizing Sam Jackson's not in it.
Right.
But but I also liked one little cameo I liked was Cody Chestnut as the singer with the guitar in the subway station. Like that song that he sings is so good. I downloaded it like the moment I found out who it was and when the soundtrack was available. It's just great. And I also like in terms of the writing, I think this might have some of Pixar's best jokes and some of their darkest jokes.
When Paul gets pulled into the, like, I guess the afterlife by Terry, that is one of the scariest, darkest, most hilarious jokes.
One that you wouldn't think that Pixar would make in like a million years.
Yes.
No, and I understand that there may be some implications about him get like just some comments I've noticed say there might be some unfortunate implications about what happened with him. But it was just like I take it as like Terry was like thinking in a very Wile E. Coyote situation because he was thinking Joe was coming down that way and then it just happened to be someone else. But I understand some of the complaints about that. I also love the joke when so spoilers if you haven't seen it. When Joe and 22 get back into into the real world and Joe ends up in the cat's body while 22 ends up in Joe's body. And at first I thought the joke was like, oh, cats don't have souls. And then they do that cutaway gag with the cat soul on the conveyor belt.
That was both brilliant and so sad.
Yeah. But apparently the soul gets back into the cat's body later on. Like
it must, I mean, that makes sense. Obviously, Terry and all of them must have reversed everything.
Yeah. Which was kind of interesting because they're like, I was just like, I just assumed that's what happened. And but I love like when Joe constantly avoids death until he falls into the manhole cover. It's like he avoids the banana peels, he avoids the tacks on the ground, he avoids getting hit by a bunch of cars, and like it's really fun it's very funny. And no, and I love like when Terry gets the trophy and it's like, and here for an award for amazement is Terry, who requested this trophy.
Who said that we had to give him this trophy.
Yeah, and I love Terry might have some of the better punchline jokes, like when near the end when he's or when Terry is going through the calculus thing, and then it's like, oh wait a minute, the numbers, and then Jerry B. Richard Ayoade's character comes in, he's like, oh hey Terry, oh my gosh, what's that over there? You gotta look at it right now. And also like Dez's lines from the barbershop where it's just like, he's like, man, you gotta sit down, man, you didn't put in an appointment. And then they see Joe's hair situation and he's like, oh man, this is an emergency. And the guy's like, no, wait a minute, I've been waiting here. Well, you can go to that chair. And like his chair is always open. And the guy's like, I'll wait.
that joke straight up reminded me of Barbershop, because Barbershop has like a very similar joke about people coming in needing a haircut like right away, and then they look at Cedric the Entertainer and they're like, no, we're good, we'll wait.
Yeah. So I think it's kind of time we talk about a little sequence and story beat that I think understandably has some people kind of mixed on how it's handled. So like we said, Joe and 22 accidentally end up back on Earth, and 22 ends up in Joe's body, whereas Joe ends up in the cat's body. And even though a lot of the jokes with the cat, like when the cat jumps off the hospital bed and it's just that plop, or like when they're back in Joe's apartment and Joe's just like, man, okay, we got to get dressed, clean up. And then he walks into the sunlight and he's like, oh man. And he plops over into the sun. Or like when the phone is going off, it just, and they, like, because, you know, cats don't have thumbs unless they're polydactyl. Just playing with it. And like, but yeah, let's talk about this. How did y'all think they handled the whole body swap thing and some of the some of the unfortunate things that come with it?
I think they did they did the best they could to keep the focus of the situation on, oh no, I'm just not in my body, or they tried to keep um, the situation as neutral as possible without really exploring the implications.
Because that's what a few critic friends of mine are talking about, and some people on like film groups are talking about, is that like Tina Fey is inside the black character's body, and even though like in universe they hear Joe's voice, the audience hears Tina's voice.
My only thing is, and I mean, I can't like, it's going to sound weird because obviously like I'm a white person who has seen himself portrayed in things his entire life. But like they go out of their way to make it a point that the reason 22 chooses that voice is because it's the most annoying. Like 22 is both genderless and sexless. Well, but there is the implication, obviously, because it is a white woman voicing the character, that it is inherently problematic. And I see both sides of the argument, and it's hard to want to take a side on either one, because you don't want to say, I think that obviously the movie goes out of its way to say this is, the movie in universe says that obviously there's no sex or gender for this character.
Yeah, that's the smart thing. Like Pixar subtly introduces its first kind of like set of non-binary characters with the souls. But I do understand that like for a decent chunk of the movie, we hear Tina Fey's voice coming out of Joe's body. And I think without absolutely recasting anything, but I will say a few recasting suggestions if they ever did do it, but which they won't. But a simple fix could have been is if they just let Jamie Foxx do a few more voices for the scenes, because on one hand, it was smart to let Jamie Foxx's voice be the one that comes out when Joe is talking to his mom,
right?
Because that's a huge, important, emotional scene.
Oh, definitely.
But I understand how that's still uncomfortable, and even though it's like it's, and I'm not saying this as a hater on Tina Fey. I think this is probably one of my favorite Tina Fey performances, because she's actually doing something else that's not just like a Liz Lemon take. But I do agree that they could have maybe had Joe, like Jamie Foxx's voice, a little more heard than Tina's, and maybe, or like, because like the whole body swap thing is important to the story, because it's for Joe to find his, like, to learn about what drives people through life from a different perspective. Well, it's also like a literal out of body experience.
I was also going to say, like, the big part of it is that it's a wonderful life, right? Yeah. Like, if you really think about it, Joe is being forced to see his life actually being enjoyed by someone for once, because he's thrown so much of his life away.
Yeah,
in his opinion.
Yeah, no, and like the whole barbershop scene is important, because you find out Des was like, man, I wanted to be a veterinarian at first, but then my daughter got sick, and barber school was cheaper than veterinary school. And then 22 is like, well, wait a minute. So now you're a barber? That sucks. You must be, and like, you're sad now. And it's like, no, I'm as happy as a clam. And it is just like, because just personally for me, I was in that, like, I'm lost soul kind of point in life. I was like that for a few years, until I found a part-time like, this was after I got laid off from these bad QA testing gigs, and then I just kind of freelanced a little bit, took up writing for a website that I liked the people. I didn't like the people who ran the website. I liked the co-writers and such. And I felt lost, and then I found a new spark in life by finding a great part-time job that I love, and I love the people working there. And now it's like I found my way of living again. And that's what I love about that barbershop scene. It's like, just because my dream of becoming a veterinarian stopped doesn't mean I stopped living. I found a new career, and I love it. And that's the importance of it, of like the body swap thing. But I think if they could have maybe had more, like I said, more Jamie Foxx, less Tina Fey, I think they could have easily fixed that without having to think about like recasting, like maybe had like Rashida Jones or something,
or Tiffany Haddish,
or like Tiffany Haddish, because like I said, it's a little awkward, which is why I understand some people and a lot of my like not everyone is bothered by this, but I understand why people are bothered by it. It's like back when 2018 when Isle of Dogs came out. I love that movie, but I understand some of the more cultural complaints about it. And that's how I feel about this. Not controversy, but just debate about the story beat and how they handle it, because the body swap was handled great. It has a lot of great moments, a lot of great jokes, but I understand why people have an issue with it.
Yeah, I mean, look, yeah. I really can't. Again, like, we all look at things the way we look at things, and I obviously cannot speak for people who feel how they feel. And I thought Pixar did a pretty good job trying to ride the line of doing it smartly without totally, bastardizing an entire group of people. It's hard to be like, because I think they did a really good job writing that line, but I also I do respect the people who don't necessarily feel like it worked, and that's okay.
Yeah, no, it's because it's the whole debate that it's kind of cropped up, I think, like maybe for 2 years now, about like, why can't black characters just stay black characters? It's like Princess and the Frog. The black princess turns into a frog, or Spies in Disguise. Will Smith gets turned into a pigeon for a majority of the film. And to its credit, you do see Joe as a human. There's just that little caveat.
Right.
For like, it's probably like a good maybe 60, 70% of the film you see Joe's human form. But a part of that 60, 70% is still like, but Tina Fey's character is in it. And at first I was saying like, oh yeah, the non-binary definite like identities for souls are like kind of helps curve that a little, but yeah, but still I get it. And it just recently, like these past few days, there's been like a super hyperbolic and toxic landscape of film discussion on Twitter, which has been just, it's been insufferable. And I feel bad for anyone because it's like, oh, you don't like it? Well, you deserve to die and whatever. And it's just like, oh my gosh, people, put the haterade down, take a chill pill, and just calm the bloody heck down.
The internet has lost sight of what it means to actually have general conversation about things.
No, and it's like,
it's all black and white to them, and it's super frustrating.
It is so frustrating because that's because when I saw this before everyone else got to see this, I was anticipating like a good discussion with some of my critic peers on Twitter and friends on Facebook. I even talked to one of my critic friends through Facebook just to ask for her perspective on it. And yeah, it's like when I kept it self-contained, I found the discussions to be helpful. But just going on Twitter, it was just a train wreck, and I felt bad for everyone who got harassed by just idiots on there. But that's enough about that. I just wanted to have a calm discussion about this sequence, because beyond that, though, like let's move on though. I think, like, how do you all feel about the third act and like the ending overall?
I thought the ending, on the one hand, the ending might come off a little bit cheap, in that it seems like Joe getting his life back seems a little more on the kid friendly side, where a more powerful ending could have been Joe just accepting his fate and like is ready to go to the great beyond. But I also see like the benefit of the more optimistic ending and letting him have a second chance at life.
I wasn't too bothered by the ending, to be honest. I liked the final act conflict of just Joe facing 22 as a lost soul and just like realizing how toxic he was, saying like, you're only liking this because it's my body and it's my life. And it's like, no, it's not. And I actually didn't mind Joe getting a second chance because it's still, I don't think it takes away from anything. It's not like how I've had issues with like how comic books handle death and whatnot, where it's just like where they kill them, they let them stay dead for a few issues, and then find some convoluted way to bring them back to life. I like that Joe gets a second chance. He understands that like what you do does not define you.
Let's
And
also be very clear that the idea that people are already upset, right, a little bit about the fact that Tina Fey is 22 in the way that it, and imagine the idea that Joe sacrifices his soul for someone who's white and how that would have looked.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Yeah, I think
I think that it was. I wish that the ending was a little bit longer. I would have liked to see a little bit more of Joe's time returning to it, but I think it's like a very beautiful ending and like the ending that it deserved, or at least Joe, I should say, deserved.
Yeah. My only little nitpick about the ending is I wish like they would cut to like an older Joe that meets 22, but that's just me kind of liking the corniness of it all. This ending reminds me of how Porco Rosso ends, where everyone's fine, they all live, and then they kind of keep on the ambiguous side if Porco returned as a human instead of like the pig man. And like at first I remember seeing I was like, well, I don't know, but then I thought about it and it's like, no, I'm pretty happy. Like I think this ending didn't or shouldn't need to have been like too ambiguous or too one way or another. Like the film's already pretty mature as it is. I think keeping him dead would have not been as great.
No, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with that. But I also see where Mike is coming from in a way, because there's something also to be said about the idea of a movie where at the end, the character accepts like maybe he actually did live a better life than he originally thought. And like, he saw that and coming to terms with that, you know, like there's a lot of ways that it could have been handled, but I think that arguably there's something very beautiful about someone getting a second chance, because not everyone gets a second chance.
Yeah, and like I think it was all pretty good. Now, we didn't really get to talk about this, but let's talk about the presentation. Let's talk about the animation and the music.
I really want to talk about the score. As I mentioned earlier, this was the first time that Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross have composed music for an animated film, and like combine that with John Baptiste, who did the jazz arrangements. It works like perfectly for the world that they created.
Yeah, no, the music is so good, especially all the piano sequences with Joe and the trumpet scene, or the guitarist in the subway, and it's just it's probably my favorite soundtrack of the year. I'd have to kind of think about it, but it's definitely up there. And I loved the ending song that I think it's called like "We'll Be All Right" or something. And no, I think Mike, you said it perfectly about the soundtrack, and it is just kind of amusing to see Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross of Nine Inch Nails.
I know you like if you told me about a decade ago that they'd be working on a Pixar film, like even before they signed on to David Fincher's The Social Network, I never would have expected Nine Inch Nails associated with film score.
That's like if the main singer of System of a Down did a Disney movie.
Boy, that would be surreal.
Yeah. But yeah, and just the jazz sequences like in the club were all just beautiful. And PJ, what did you think about the score?
This score is excellent. I'm a big fan of Atticus, and
Atticus and Trent. Like, I've listened to Nine Inch Nails for a long time, but I think that their jump into feature film scoring, obviously with Fincher and The Social Network and Girl with the Dragon Tattoo and so on and so forth, like, they've been crushing it the last just over a decade now, you know? And to see them getting into something like this, it gave the Afterlife a very otherworldly feel in the right way.
Yeah, it was a very ethereal soundtrack.
Yeah.
It reminds me a little bit of the soundtrack for A Monster Calls in that regards.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just love that sequence when Joe enters the zone on his piano and just it's just beautiful.
It is. I'm actually listening to it right now too. Like, as we're podcasting, I've been listening to it in the background because it just plays well. And the jazz music by John Battisti, I want to make sure I'm saying it right.
Yeah,
it's so great too. And that I just love their love for jazz music in this because I'm a big fan of jazz.
Yeah, no, this film goes from like top to bottom, exploring Black culture just really well and very respectfully.
So something else we haven't really addressed is that this is a great New York film.
I was about to bring that up. It absolutely is. It is an incredible New York film. Like, it gets that idea of being the New Yorker and like what life is like in that. I think that moment when they come out of the hospital and 22 kind of is on Earth for the first time and you're dropped into the middle of New York, like the idea of how overwhelming that could feel. But also that look on her face or their face or it, 22's face.
Yeah.
When they have pizza for the first time.
Yeah.
And, oh my God, dude.
Yeah, no, I haven't been to New York, but it captures from what I've seen of New York, just it's busy, but it's lively and it's a little chaotic, but there's a rhythm to that chaos.
Yes.
And I don't care if people don't care for this joke. I love the little pizza rat cameo.
I thought that, like, is there people who don't like that joke?
No, I don't know, but I can understand as some people being like, oh, it's a reference. But I love that little joke of Joe when he's in the cat's body bringing the pizza and he runs into the pizza rats.
Oh, I mean, that's like a real New York thing, though, man. Like, I see rats in the city every time I'm there, like munching on pizza and like going into trash bags and stuff. Like, that's a real thing.
Yeah, I know. It was just so cute and I loved it.
Yeah.
But it's like, it just it's probably one of the best. Yeah, like y'all said, it's probably one of the best films to capture what New York is all about, and it's a great little hot pot of a city of cultures and different kinds of people there,
and the arts.
Golly, the animation is just
breathtaking.
It's so stupidly amazing how far CGI animation has come for Pixar from 25 years ago. Just it's amazing to see them go from having to work with toys and bugs to get around the texture issue to 2007 to finally cracking that code of how to work with how to make human models interesting, and then going into like 2009 to like 2015 being like, wow, they're getting photorealism down. And I like the human designs for the film, and that's always something that I think Pixar and Disney are really good at. They're good at finding good human designs. I think other companies are starting to catch up. I think some studios like DreamWorks kind of struggle depending on what movie they're making. But Pixar finds real ways for very appealing designs, and it's like it's all varied. And I saw a lot of like Black critics and friends being like sharing like pictures around of like Dez and Curly and Dorothea Williams, because they're like, oh my gosh, they got the hair right. And that was like a huge thing that if you watch the documentary series Inside Pixar, that was a thing that Kim Powers really wanted done well, was just how to get the designs down, how to have proper representation and such. And man, the lighting in this movie, just like the ethereal look of the before times, era to the like dimly lit jazz clubs. And
I need to give a shout out to Bradford Young, who apparently was the lighting consultant on the film.
Wow.
And like it just makes so much sense. Looking at, you know, the way that they compose the in the zone moment.
Yes. Absolutely.
it was like a moment out of Fantasia in some ways. Just no, it's such a pretty movie, and it's like you get the soft hues of like the before, like kind of like the out of focus areas. And I like how they handle souls. Like I think they give them, they're very distinct looking, and I love the whole sequence of 22 dealing with a bunch of different soul mentors.
Oh, dude!
Like,
every time they did that, I was dying.
yeah, I loved Mother Teresa. It's like, I have compassion for all living things except you. I hate you.
Yeah.
Or Muhammad Ali. You are the greatest. Pain in my neck.
Dude, there was so many great jokes in that. Like everyone was good. Even 22 in the trying to find 22's thing.
Oh,
and
yeah, it's
like the jokes that the expensive librarians rang all too true for some people in like the right ways, but like it was brilliant, and the animation that went along with everyone.
Yeah, like I love, of course, one of my favorites. Even though it was probably an obvious line that was or a joke that was going to come up, it's like, oh no, souls don't die here. That's for souls. That's going to happen when souls go to Earth. Like,
yeah, it's like souls can't die here. That's what happens when they go to Earth, or that's what Earth's time is for.
But I love like the little details in animation when they go into that everything room building. And by the way, did you all see the Pizza Planet delivery truck?
No, I totally forgot to look for it.
It's in there. It's in when they first go into that building. So
okay.
Because like as people know, like animation fans know, Pixar has like the Stan Lee cameo thing going for them, where every film has a Pizza Planet truck in some shape or form. And I loved like how they like the idea of like, yeah, of course souls can't smell or taste or eat and digest. It just pops out of them. Probably has like the best maybe poop joke out of that. Just like 22 just popping that slice of pizza out. And man, it's so pretty. It's like Pixar has this way of just making everything feel cohesive. Maybe not for The Good Dinosaur, but even then, The Good Dinosaur still looks great. But visually, it's just a stunning looking movie. And yeah, I think that we've covered everything, unless there's any like little details or moments that you want to bring up.
So you mentioned the Hall of Everything and the Pizza Planet truck. There's another Easter egg. One of the street signs has A113.
Oh, of course. The classroom where all the Pixar animators came from.
Yep.
Did anybody spot any other like little other Pixar Easter eggs? Because I couldn't spot any others, but I might have. But I was also working off of a screener version of the film, so I probably couldn't see like if they hid any dolls or anything like in the background or seen.
I wasn't really looking this time, to be honest. Like I was just so enamored with the movie that I need to go back now and like, you know, get to watch it differently, like where I can look around a little bit more, because I was just so entranced.
Yeah, no, it was just good. But yeah, any other scenes y'all want to talk about before we wrap up and maybe talk about the big heavyweight fight between Soul and Wolfwalkers?
I think we covered all the major moments in the film.
Oh, I will say the after the barber scene where they kind of make Daveed Diggs's character the punchline. I love that you see him go back to Daveed Diggs' character and kind of apologize and such. Like it just makes it so much like much more wholesome, even though it is like I hate dealing with cynics like Daveed Diggs' character Paul is. But I like that they make up for that and such. So that's all. That's really all I have to bring up. So because we didn't know if Soul was still coming out near the end. Like this was a few months back before the whole 25th release date was announced. And a lot of people were thinking Wolfwalkers had the biggest chance of winning Best Animated Feature this year. And then Soul was just like, oh, no, I'm still going to be around. And now that like Wolfwalkers and Souls have been racking up like Best Animated Feature awards from different critic guilds and outlets, so if this thing was, if both of these films, which are obviously going to be nominated for the Oscars, the Globes, and the Annies, which one would you rather see win? And for the heck of it, you can say both if you wanted, if they somehow came up with a tie.
Okay, the easy answer for me, since I have seen both, is I would love to see a tie, but failing that, I would like to see Wolfwalkers win the Annie Award and Soul win the Oscar and the Golden Globe. I think that's as good of a fair trade as we'll get as fans of both of these movies.
Now, so why did you choose Soul for the Oscars? I'm just curious. Do you think is it like a brand thing? Because that's always the criticism of the Best animated feature Oscars with.
And admittedly, yes. I think the chances of Soul winning the Oscars over Wolfwalkers is just more likely because the people voting for Best Animated Feature, which, as a reminder, that award is now open to everyone, not just the animation departments.
I hate that. I hate that decision so much.
I know.
Yeah. Sorry.
but the reason I said Soul for the Oscars and Wolfwalkers for the Annies is because the Annie Awards are more focused on the animation community.
Yeah,
and I think that voting body will just have a deeper appreciation for what Cartoon Saloon has brought to the table. Yeah. Plus, this is probably going to be like the film that has given them the most attention. So if Cartoon Saloon is going to win any other year, this would be the year.
Yeah. This is tough because they're both of these films are basically my number one favorite animated films of the year. Even though I put Wolfwalkers in one, they're great in their own respective ways. Now, if Soul was being pushed back to next year, and it was just going to be Onward, Wolfwalkers all the way, just all of them.
Oh yeah, totally.
Because as much as I still love Onward, Soul is the better movie. Just on a lot of other elements, even though, like I said, that's the thing. Onward is a different movie than what Soul is. And I think just for the sake of like Cartoon Saloon getting more support, I'd rather Wolfwalkers win. And I think it's mostly because I've seen the discussions of Wolfwalkers be a lot more positive and consistent than with Soul, but also Soul just came out, so I'll have to see. And I know it says like someone on Twitter was kind of getting kind of grumpy pants about like, well, now Soul's out, so now everybody thinks that one should win, even though Wolfwalkers is 100 times better. And I hate people who want Pixar to win. And it's like, chill. First off, I get what you're saying, but it's tough because to beat Pixar and Disney at their own game, you have to have something that either completely stands out from the rest, like a Spirited Away or a Spider-Verse. And this is going to be a tough year because there are a few animated films that are just great, like Ride Your Wave, Onward. I think Over the Moon is going to probably be nominated. I don't think
I would be shocked if that doesn't get a nomination.
Because as much as I love the Willoughbys, I think Over the Moon will be the better choice. But even then, I don't think Netflix is going to win. Their chance to win last year was with Klaus. Even though I know a lot of people really liked I Lost My Body, but I think Klaus was the better movie. Yeah, I think I'd like Wolfwalkers to win, but I wouldn't be upset if Soul won. At least it would be more sensible than Toy Story 4. So, PJ, what do you think?
I was gonna say the unfortunate truth is I haven't had a chance to watch Wolfwalkers yet.
Oh, you
so
great.
It's on my list because I'm very excited for it. It looks fantastic, and I mean, you know, anything like that is always good to see win. And the truth of the matter is, Pixar has won a lot of awards, so I wouldn't really be opposed to Wolfwalkers winning the Academy Award, if only because it would be nice to see someone else get the award. But it's hard to also make a case against Soul because I think Soul is just like such an incredible film.
It's tough. These are both really good movies, and they're both very mature films.
Right.
I would argue that maybe Wolfwalkers has a little more childlike wonder to it, but only because it's like it has a few more comedic bits than Soul. But Soul, it's tough. It's like I could go either way, even though I still probably would want Wolfwalkers to win. But yeah, it's tough. But yeah, in the end, go see Soul, man. And watch the short that was supposed to go with it, Burrow, which is a very cute, wonderful piece of 6 minutes of animation where it kind of has like that Ernest and Celestine art style, and it's very cute, no dialogue. I highly recommend watching that short.
Same. I made my parents watch that first before we watched Soul, because I wanted to share a little bit of my love for 2D animation, and I'm also really hoping one day Pixar does a full feature in that sort of style.
I think that's going to have to be the case. If people want 2D animation to come back, a studio like Pixar is going to have to be the one to throw their hat in the ring first, because everyone else is a little too afraid to. And I understand, like, Spider-Verse happened, so it's like we're going to see more creative CGI animation. But like I said, everyone kind of waits for the giant monster in the animation world to make the first move before they all jump on board and such. But yeah, watch Soul.
Yeah, seriously, watch Soul.
Yeah.
Now, before we end this, we usually like to end on recommendations, and for mine, I'm stepping a little bit out of our jurisdiction. Okay, first off, one of my recommendations is a series that we talked about in the last episode, Great Pretender, which I think is a nice spiritual successor to Lupin the Third. It kind of has it has that similar comedic bent to the heist genre, and much like some of the best Lupin the Third storylines, each case is basically a character study for each of our 4 protagonists. It has 2 seasons right now, and it's on Netflix, and it's awesome. If you want to hear our more in-depth thoughts, check out previous episodes of this podcast. And my other recommendation, I briefly mentioned this on Twitter, but I think Soul would make a great double feature with It's a Wonderful Life, because both deal with similar themes about, you know, appreciating the life that you have and how you affect the people around you.
So my recommendation is going to be a French animated film. Like, first of all, I apologize for the last episode if I sounded kind of flustered. I was just kind of having a busy, panicky week. So that's why I was like a little like, oh man, I don't know what to recommend. So I just agreed with Michael and said like, yeah, watch Ernest and Celestine. So this time, I'm going to talk about an animated film that I think anyone can watch, but it's definitely aimed more at an adult audience. It's called The Illusionist, and you have to be careful because I know there's already a film called The Illusionist out there. This is the animated film follow-up from the same director of The Triplets of Belleville, and this came out back in 2010, and it's about a magician who adopts this young girl, and it's just kind of like an interesting, complex tale of just adjusting to the what life throws at you, and just it's very different from the more comedic antics and spirit of the Triplets of Belleville film, but it still has a lot of that great 2D animation that's just so detailed. And I hope the director is going to make another animated film. I heard he's maybe making a CGI film, but I'm not sure. But I definitely recommend it. It's also, I think, pretty cheap to get your hands on at about maybe $10 or so. I don't know if it's playing anywhere, but yeah, just watch it. It's great.
PJ, do you have any recommendations?
I mean, it's kind of funny because I think that in the confines of what we've been talking about tonight, there's one very obvious one, and that's The Castle of Cagliostro. If you guys have never seen it, it was the second Lupin the Third film, and it was directed by Miyazaki. It was his directorial debut, and in my opinion, I thought it was always kind of the gateway into that world and the gateway into what Miyazaki would kind of become known for. I think it shows a lot of his filmmaking style and choices very early on in his career before he would become the Miyazaki that we really knew and loved. But I think it's also arguably, as I've kind of said earlier, the quintessential Lupin adventure. And in the confines of what we're talking about, it feels kind of important to be like, you should go back and watch this one. Came out in 1979. So, we're looking at 40 years old, this 41 years old now for this movie. And most people, I feel like, really haven't seen it, which is really a shame. So I can't recommend enough going back to this one and revisiting the world, getting to know the characters for the first time if you've never been introduced to them, or if you know the characters but you've never seen the movie, reacquainting yourself with that world in it. I just think it's such a masterfully done movie, and it's just so much fun.
Yeah, no, it's a fun action movie too. And unfortunately, the Netflix version is kind of the weaker streamlined media release version. That's where they keep calling Lupin Wolf or Boss.
Yes.
And so if you want to get the pure, the best version of it, Discotech Media re-released a Blu-ray, and they're going to release a 4K version of it. And just watch that. Yeah, just that's all. I just want to make sure that was clear because it is out there, but I'd always recommend watching a specific dub for that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have that 4K pre-ordered. I can't wait for it to come out.
Yeah. Well, Mike, I think that wraps everything up.
Yeah, this was a great episode. Thanks, PJ, for joining us on this one.
Anytime, you guys. I always like hanging out for a little bit with you guys and talking things animated. I was supposed to be on a couple of months ago, but my internet just stopped that from happening. So I'm glad I got to finish 2020 in style with you guys. It's always fun to come back and share some love with you with the animation.
Agreed.
Yeah. All right. So where can everyone find you guys online? PJ, I'll start with you.
You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at PJ_Campbell. You can find me over at the PJ Campbell Network, where we're doing all sorts of fun things. We do watch-alongs, movie reviews, Box, which is our curb your enthusiasm of unboxing videos is how I'm going to say it. That's the best description I've got for it. We got a Patreon account if you want to help us keep the lights on. It's always awesome if you want to join that. And you can find me at the Movie Trivia Schmodown, where I'm writing questions. I'm the head writer over there. Be nice to the writers. We're only human. I really appreciate it. Thanks again, guys.
No problem. Right. It was great to have you on. You can find me on Twitter at Cam's Eye View. I post small little discussion threads from time to time. And I also run a website. Well, and those threads are just talking about animation and such. And I have a website called camsiview.biz where I do written reviews for animated films called The Other Side of Animation. And I've gone back into reviewing live action films in my section of the site called Play It Again. And you can find me on the Renegade Pop Culture Facebook group. And I also have a Patreon at patreon.com/camsiview. And that's where you can find me.
Awesome. And you guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at CaptainK42. Check out my quick thoughts on letterboxd.com/CoachK42. Find me in all the various Facebook groups just at my name. You can check out Renegade Pop Culture on Facebook and Twitter at Ren Pop Culture. All our podcasts are available on Stitcher, Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, wherever you listen. And last but not least, don't forget to check out renegadepopculture.com. Need an escape? So do we. That'll do it for this installment of Renegade Animation. We will catch you guys later. Peace out.
Bye.
Bye, guys.